Thanks, Travis. There you go.
Hey, you notice he wore the tie to match
Yeah, he
your
got the
uniforms.
orange tie.
Yeah,
I like that.
that looks very nice of you.
That's a good sport, man. I like that.
Chase, is that your number?
Huh?
Is that your number?
No. No, I had to borrow that.
Right.
That's from the class of '99.
I'd like to call the East Ascension Drainage meeting to order for November the 8th, 2021. Mr. Johnny, would you please lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledge?
Sure will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's prepare ourselves for prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather tonight to conduct the business of the Ascension Parish with regards to drainage. Help us and guide us in all our actions, and may your Holy Spirit be with us at all times, for we place our lives in your hands, always and forever, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can't wait to see how y'all look in purple.
Thank you for that. Let it be known that Mr. Ogeron and Mr. Mason are absent. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with Ms. Liz. No add-on for the agenda. Acceptance of the minutes of the October 18th. Moved by Mr. Johnny, second by Ms. Terry. There's no chairman's report, but I would like to add, Mr. Jade would like to do a little small PowerPoint on some digging and cleaning out we've been doing. So it's yours, Jade.
Commission. Today I bring y'all the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity District monthly report for October. This is more of an operations report, something y'all will see probably in the near future on a monthly basis. Me and Ron taking a couple different duties. I will be bringing the operations report, and Ron will be looking at capital projects and working in conjunction with each other through that, kind of help you understand what we do. So today, to start, our water tree removal. Each of us know that we've been fighting trees with Hurricane Ida. So at the time speaking, we're in Bayou Man Shack. We have Kim Spray as our contractor. At the moment, we've pulled 75 trees. We're looking to finish that within the next 4 days. Per Thursday evening, we were 3 trees into finishing that project. Ron will probably speak a little later about furthering that project, but that is phase 1 of that project, which is pre-Ida trees. Also, Parish Crews. Parish Crews are deployed out throughout the parish at this time. We're in major canals, we're in small laterals throughout the parish, and as of the month of October, we're at 343 trees pulled out by numerous crews, which mostly are major drainage department. We've worked to transition some of our minor drainage back to their daily duties and work order situation to try to serve our patrons a little better. So towards the middle of the month. What we got here next is mainly just a few photos of kind of where we've been. This is Bayou Man Shack, some before and afters. Gives you an idea what we're looking at, the progress we're making in there. And guys, if you haven't ridden it in a boat, I know not everybody has one. We've taken this ride several times, and it's pretty impressive, just the small amount of work that has been done in this waterway. My last ride, you could tell the swiftness of the water just this little bit. So our finished project there is probably going to make a pretty huge impact. This here is some photos out on New River. This is our boat crew run by Mr. Ron Landry. We've got Mr. Zach and Vance Gotro in the background here doing some cutting. I put this in here to show y'all the extent of what it takes to get these trees out of these waterways. You can see we have a parish barge, and this is what it looks like when they're finished. These guys perform some pretty serious work out there and do a very well job. You can see the clearing that they've done. This is Marvin Bro. This is where we bring from the outfall of New River. This is where we chose to bring these trees, give you an idea how far we have to float and carry these to get these out. Get them out of these woods and waterways. That way rising water doesn't put them back in these streams. So I thought it was very important to show y'all. Bayou Goudin. This is one here that's caused some pretty major clogs. Just wanted everybody to know that we were getting into the middle of the city. We were looking at these smaller streams, not just the largers. This was a pretty good blockage here, as you can see. You see what it looks like and finished. Moving on from trees, on and off-road drainage projects. Right here, we're in Silverstone, Duplexes Road. This particular project is 3 servitude ditches that's being redug to grade. So this is your after on Duplexes. We also have Oakley Lane. You can see the nice flow of water as we're opening it up. Philippi Avenue Ditch Project. Fields Court. A little more Fields Court. These are some large projects. This project should be finished within a week or so. We're on the last, I think 500 feet or so as of today. But all of this was done in the month of October. Culvert Projects, these are done by minor drainage also. Penny Duplexes Road, these are done by Contrell Hines' crew. Mr. Dana Gotro and his crew's done a great job. We've taken them off of trees also, kind of getting them back into our daily work order process. So we've got Cortez Avenue, C. Gotro Road. This was a new driveway installed. This was not a tear out and repair. Galaxy Boulevard. You can see what that needed very badly. Jimmy Michael Road. And as of the month of October, contractor tree removal as a follow-up. Man Shack, 75 trees. Now bear in mind, out of these 75 trees, we did do a interagency agreement with East Baton Rouge. We will be sharing the cost of this project with East Baton Rouge. I don't know the exact numbers, but we're pretty close to like a 65-45, Ascension 65% on that number. So we're well under budget, probably 4 weeks into the project. So I think we've done very well there. Kim Spray's done a good job. Parish-wide, recap again, 343 trees. Off-road ditches, 4, roadside ditches, 6, and 12 culverts in the month of October. And that's what we've got for you right now.
Appreciate you, Jay.
So,
Good work.
thank y'all.
Mr. President, you want to add anything to that?
No, just want to give our crews a shout out. That's some vicarious work when you're in chainsaws and in boats. And our water crews do a heck of a job, and including all the crews who have shifted over to our waterways to clean up after a storm like Ida. And so we'll continue to make progress and continue to update the board as we continue along. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move on to number 6, drainage report. Mr. Ron?
Yeah, pretty much covered everything with Jay, but I do have one good comment. As thankful as we are, I don't have anything to report for any of the pumping stations for the last month. So we're very grateful for the nice weather we've been having. It's been a blessing for us to be able to get back to work on these routine jobs. Jade mentioned the next phase of Man Shack. We had a pre-construction meeting with DRC, the debris removal contractor, and they'll be taking over Man Shack right after Thanksgiving. They're scheduled to go out and try to get the remainder of the trees in Man Shack and then move on to our other channels within the parish with that project. So that's underway, and All South Engineering is managing that contract. So that'll be kicking off very soon to follow all of this up. And then I'll yield to H&TB and McKim Cree to do some capital project updates for you guys. So
Appreciate it.
if you don't mind, come on up.
Mr. John, please come up.
I have a brief presentation when it comes up. So to give you an update, a monthly update, on where we are with the floodplain management program. Yeah, it should come up. All right. So I'll go ahead and get started. We're still on the 18-month schedule. I'll give you some updates today on tasks 2, 4, 5, and 6, which is the data collection and acquisition, flood hazard assessment, identify problems and develop risk mitigation strategies, and the floodplain management plan itself. This is our schedule right here. I don't know if you can't see it very well. The one item that we have a due out for you is the Bayou Manchac modeling, which I'll cover later on in the presentation. But everything else, we're either working on it or getting ready to provide you with a deliverable. Data collection and acquisition, the survey progress, Manchac and Henderson are complete. Marvin Bro, the effort by CSRS is 75% complete, and Bayou Conway has not started yet. We did some additional survey. We'll discuss this later as well. Magnolia Oak Drive at Perkins Road, that's complete. We ran a model, and I'll show you the results of that. The data acquisition by Dewberry, which is the LWI effort on the other portion of the Marvin Bro Basin, they are estimating to have that survey effort completed by the early December, early next month. Modeling status, Bayou Manchac's done, 99%. We're just doing some fine tuning to it. Henderson Bayou model, CE Hydro, one of our subs, is doing that portion, that's 60%. Marvin Bro, we're getting some information in as we get it from CSRS, that's 25%. And actually CSRS is doing that model. And then the Bayou Conway Panama Canal, we're doing that one in-house, and that one's 20% done. Risk map status, the preliminary Bayou Manchac maps are to be provided. We have, we took them for a test run during the steering committee meeting a couple of weeks back, and those are coming along quite nicely, and we should have those for you next month. The Bayou Manchac model, the preliminary results are complete. We will have those to you by the end of the month, and you'll be able to see what that localized model looks like as opposed to the regional model. We're completing the review of all the scenarios, and the model will be packaged and provided to you, as I mentioned, at the end of the month. And then the flood risk zone maps will be provided to you next month. So, I know you've seen this slide before, I think so. What I'm going to show you what the regional model looks like in the upper Manchac Basin. This is a model of a 16-inch rainfall event over 24 hours, which NOAA classifies as a 500-year event. And the map on the left is the LiDAR imagery. The map on the right is satellite imagery. This is runs over 36 hours. It'll show you what you wind up with as the water comes up. You can see most of the swamp starts to fill up, with the exception of Rich Road right there, and then it drains out slowly. Okay. Magnolia Oak Drive, we put an 11-inch rainfall event, which is a 50-year storm. In the Wash Gully, in the map on the lower left-hand side, that water surface elevation gets to about 25 feet. So what's occurring right here is that the Magnolia Oaks Drive ditch, if you look at the top schematic, Magnolia Oaks overtops this bank. And that's why you're seeing water in those people's yards along Jefferson Highway. We did identify some culverts that, may need to be swapped out, but the real issue is not the culverts along Perkins. Some of the grade on the canal may need to be adjusted, but none of that's going to help you until we look and identify what's happening further downstream, and while Welsh Gully is getting up to 25, we're working our way downstream. It looks like the crossings at Welsh Gully at Airline Highway may also be a little bit undersized. So, but once we identify all of that, this may be one of those projects that we can work on. Maybe whittle it down from the 60 to 30. I'm not sure, but we'll discuss that with the steering committee. Before I move on, because I know there was a lot of questions about this particular location. Mr. Lawler, you have any questions about that?
Well, somebody's watching this on TV that lives right there and was texting me a question just now. So long-term, I guess what her question is, long-term, we have to look at Walsh Gully, and we're not going to have any short-term solutions for it right now, but Walsh Gully is going to have to be, I guess like we always say, going all the way down to Bayou Manchac, work our way back up from there.
That's correct. So, I mean, you could do some modifications there, but it's not going to help you. You're just putting the cart before the horse. The problem is in Welsh Gully itself, further downstream. Once that water gets to 25, it just creates a headwater condition, and the water just can't get out. Tailwater condition, sorry, and the water just can't get out fast enough. And as you see in the top, it comes out of its bank about maybe 8 inches. Thereabouts. So that's the nuisance flooding. I know it's more than nuisance for one of those homes, but that's what's causing the water in the yards.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Robert.
All right, moving on.
Hold on, Mr. Young.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. Mr. Robert.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple questions, a couple slides before that, as far as the data collection and acquisition and the surveying with the 4 major areas for the modeling. And my question, I'm going to put it, I guess phrase it this way. Since we are looking at the only 2 in-house of the 4, or the Manchac Basin and Bayou Conway, correct? With HNTP? Or is that only with the
CSRS is collecting Manchac Basin, 100%, Henderson Basin, all of it, and all of Bayou Conway. On the Marvin Bros side of the house, they're 75% complete, but they're only picking up about 20% of that survey, because the other 80% is being done by Dewberry.
Okay, so they'll have the other parts of those, of the Marvin Bro also?
There was some cost savings there
No, absolutely. I guess where I'm going with this is, we could assume that Conway surveying will be done a lot quicker, and the modeling will catch up since we're already ahead on the first one. I get why you would do it. I'm just making sure we're going to be up to speed.
If you look at the map, Bayou Conway is the smallest of all the basins.
Yes.
So, and we have some historical survey data that we were going to compare, but
Okay.
we don't anticipate that Bayou Conway is going to take very long to pick up at all.
Okay.
But we're just, as soon as CSRS wraps up Henderson, we're going to task them to go over Conway. That might start next month.
Okay, thank you.
Please go ahead, Mr. Young. Go ahead, Mr. Young.
Good. Okay. We have begun to look at some pump station and regional management project at the Ascension Parish alignment. If you look at the top, the red line, that is the channel elevations of New River, starting at I-10 and working our way back to where we're proposing a pump station. It's over like 28,000 feet, so it's about maybe 3.5 mile run. We're gonna, the proposed channel is to start at I-10, pick it up at around 2.5, and bring it down to a -5, so we can get a negative slope flowing towards the river and put a pump station at that location. The other channel, the Ridge Road Canal you see on the bottom, you're going to start at the Highway 74 at the intersection there at about an 8, and bring it back and tie it into New River. You can see that it does decrease as you go from, but it comes up. There's a ridge there, and then it does decrease as you move to left to right. There's going to be some clearing that we're going to have to do there, but it's looking pretty feasible. So we're moving along with that one. This one is in Iberville Parish. This is going to use Bayou Paul, draw water out of Bayou Paul to the proposed channel and bring it back to the old Willow Glen facility. Same scenario here, except this is much flatter. If you see that green line, starting at Bayou Paul and then bringing it back to New River. Bringing it back to the Mississippi at the Willow Glen facility. We're also proposing a -5 intake suction elevation there. And then the last alignment, which this one's gonna help Iberville and Ascension, because we were gonna take the water out of Bayou Fountain, bring it behind the soccer fields on Burbank and put a pump station on Bluebonnet. That should reduce the amount of water that goes into Bayou Manchac in the first place. So we're modeling all these scenarios, and we're going to see how this all provides benefit to Ascension, Iberville, and EBR as well. So same scenario here. You can look at the profile grade elevation, the red line there. We're still going to go back to a -5 at the pump station intake. And these are all looking like 1,200 CFS pump stations. So that concludes my presentation. All these findings and data collection, the flood hazard assessment, all of that, it's going to be part of the management plan. And we're moving along. We're still on that 18-month schedule. So I'll take any additional questions you may have at this time.
Appreciate you, Mr. John. It doesn't look like we have any questions. Definitely like looking at those percentages moving up, and keep up the good work.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Ms. Kimberly.
Good evening. I'm just going to give a quick update on the two PLD projects, Lower Ridge Levy Extension and Fish Bayou. Starting with Lower Ridge Levy Extension, we've been mostly done with design for months. We're just waiting on right-of-way acquisition to finalize plans. I did reach out to PLD's right-of-way acquisition team to get an update from them. So as of today, just to remind, it's 30 tracts that need to be acquired for the right-of-way acquisition. We had to reappraise all the tracts because the appraisals expired during the Livingston lawsuit. To date, we've received 12 of 30 updated appraisals, and we expect to have the remainder by December 31st. Once we get the appraisers, we can make offers to the remaining tracts that haven't been acquired. So far, PLD has authorized 2 tracts for acquisition, so that's where we are. I wish it was a happier update, but we're waiting on right-of-way acquisition. Are there any questions on Lower Ridge Levy Extension? All right, moving on to Fish Bayou. They've completed mobilization and clearing. They've nearly completed constructing their earthen dam so that they can pump down the vicinity of where the structure is going, dewater, and cut the road. They expect to mobilize their crane next week and cut the road by mid-November, late November. I did provide some pictures today of the construction site just to give an update. I sent them in an email earlier today. I'm not sure. I can't see that. Fish Bayou project. Send them to Jerry? Jarius? Well, I'll have better pictures next month because the road will hopefully be gone. So we'll figure it out for next month. But I did send 3 pictures, and I can forward them onto the drainage board. That would be appreciated. Y'all have any questions? All right. Thank you, and sorry for the technical difficulties.
Appreciate you, Kim.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to number 7, general business. Have some good news, a proposed resolution by our bond counsel, Mr. Malcolm Dugas.
Good evening, board members. This is a resolution that I'll read. It says a resolution authorizing East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 of the Parish of Ascension, Louisiana, to proceed with a not to exceed $3,590,000 financing through Louisiana Local Governmental Facilities and Community Development Authority, and requesting that said authority issue its revenue bonds, authorizing the borrowing by the district of the proceeds from the sale thereof, and the refunding of all of the portion of the authority's $36 million, all or a portion, of the authority's $36,810,000 revenue refunding bonds, East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 Project Series 215, providing certain terms and of said bonds, making application to the State Bond Commission for the approval of said bonds, appointing bond counsel, independent registered municipal advisor, and underwriter, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Basically, what this is during different periods of time, the parish issues various bonds. 2015, there was a bond issue. Between myself, Mr. Ryan, who's the financial advisor, and Marcus, who is the underwriter, we keep an eye on the bonds to see whether or not there's anything that could be refunded, basically meaning refinance. Just like if you had your house, you had an interest rate and you can get a better interest rate, you'd go for the lower interest rate, and that's what we have found here. These bonds, I think at 5%, I think we found an opportunity to refinance them at about 2.8%, which
Moved by Mr. Joel, second by Ms. Terry. Any questions? Mr. Chase? Did I hit you?
Yeah, I'm good. All right, so my question is going to be for our finance guy, Mr. Goldsmith down there, because this is kind of complicated, right? I mean, I feel like it's not just as easy as refinancing our house. So, I mean, have you had a chance to look over refinancing terms and all stuff? Is this something you feel comfortable with? Do you have all the information you need to, give us guidance here?
Well, last week I was able to get in touch with first Mr. Marcus Lambert, the underwriter, and I did have several questions at first because the information that's presented to the council is obviously summary information, and so I was looking for a little bit more detailed information, cost of issuance, some schedules. Obviously wanted to talk to our municipal advisor, Mr. Jim Ryan, and I was able to get the documents I needed. I know this is a refunding, which moves a little bit faster. But I was able to get the source and uses of funds. They don't have a cost of issuance yet. That'll be when they go to the bond commission. And it didn't have all of the cost of issuance spelled out, but it did have the amounts. It did have the amount of the savings. They did have the schedules carried out to 2040, how much would be saved, the net present value. And also one thing is the net present value savings as a percent of the refunding par. There are some standards by the bond commission that they're going to be looking for. So if this deal turns out to not be as advantageous because of things changing, that'll come out at bond commission. So based on everything I've gotten in my conversations with Mr. Ryan and with Marcus Lambert, I do feel like this is a good deal. I've also talked to the bond commission staff. They said this is not uncommon right now. There's a lot of refundings going on right now. There's an opportunity in the market to do so, at least at the present time. And we did have a conversation that maybe in the future I can be put on the front end, because I know y'all are probably going to be looking to me for these things. And so we had a great conversation about that, and we're going to try to coordinate more on the front end. But this was a refunding that's going to be moved fairly fast. And in my background working with the bond commission, usually it's a little different. I'm used to people coming to me trying to convince me to move forward with these refundings. And I know it's a little different in the parish, and it's more of a competitive process, but here it's a very different process that moves a little faster, especially for refundings. So I do feel comfortable, and I appreciate all the information they were able to provide.
Perfect. If he likes it, I like it. Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Appreciate it.
Mr. Aaron?
That's all I was going to say. Just thank you, Malcolm, Jim, Marcus. Y'all did a great job on this. Simply put, there's more money that we can put into drainage solutions now. So good job. Keep it up.
All right, with that, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any opposition?
Dempsey, can we get a vote for the resolution?
Oh, yeah.
Yays and, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I
Motion
thought
to
we
approve the
already had
resolution.
it.
Yeah.
So a motion by Mr. Chase,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Aaron. Any opposition? None? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, we'll move on to B. This is approval, proposed resolution. Mr. Ron.
Yeah, we're asking approval for a resolution and to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and East Baton Rouge Parish to provide clearing and snagging for Bayou
Motion
Manchac
to approve.
Channel.
Moved by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion. Any opposition? None, motion passed. Going to C, this is consideration. This is Ron and Miss Kimberly.
Yeah, so we're asking, again, from the previous meeting, we were asked to go out and give a little bit more description of what we're looking to do as a scope on the Rhonda Place and the high school site on Parker Road. We're asking for consideration of the proposal of McKim Creed for Rhonda Place subdivision drainage improvements and discussion of option resolving flooding issues, improve the drainage outfall to Henderson Bayou and Black Bayou.
A motion to approve, and I'd like to note it's not to exceed $32,000.
Motion by Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. Chase. Discussion.
I do have one question.
Mr. Chase.
So the work being performed, that's gonna be within, our servitude? Or, I mean, there's things that we already have.
Yep, so we walked the site last week and went out and actually physically went over the whole logistics of the place. And part of it would be the school board dedicating a servitude on their parcel
Okay.
in conjunction with the parish. Because right now, Rhonda Place's outfalls and their road ditches and things, there's really not a good, solid connection hydraulically to the ditch that goes to Parker Road to Henderson Bayou Basin. So this one would enhance our servitudes and get us more maintenance for the future for this area. So I think we've got a good plan. We just got to put all the plans in place and get the engineering behind it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind. With that, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Terry?
I just want to compliment staff. I'd love to see us do things in advance of something that's going to happen, rather than to wait until that school was there and then try to fix a problem. So thank you all for taking that initiative.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I just want to really give some thanks to the school board, because they've been proactive in helping assist us before the school is built to put this in place. They have shared the same concerns as us. So I want to thank the school board as well as the administrative staff at the school or our public system. So they've been easy to work with and are looking for solutions as well. So we want to give them a shout out. Thank you.
Just real quick comment. Kim, would you come up, please? I know this is our breaking point in Henderson Bayou and
Black Bayou.
some
That's the two
some
watersheds.
some of it's going to go. What percentage did we figure out what was going to go toward the Henderson?
In the original schematic I showed last month, I had an estimate of what should be going there. We're going to get additional surveying to see. It's kind of hard to tell because the Eric Drive, which is the back portion of the neighborhood's drainage, is so inconsistent and it really doesn't tie into anything. But for now, we're going to try and keep it within the watershed, so it'll likely just be the Eric Drive and back component of the neighborhood that's going to connect, and we're going to leave everything else the same to not mess with two watersheds.
Okay, great. Thank you for that info. No other discussion. We have a motion and second on this. No opposition. Motion passed. On to D, it's another consideration. This is the Shadows of Manchac subdivision, and we have some speakers on this. Miss Misty Etramon.
Thank you, Council and Parish President, for putting a priority on drainage for Ascension Parish. I would like to address how the detention pond is unique, both in design and in circumstance. The pond is approximately 2,500 feet long and 100 feet wide. I believe there are only 2 neighborhoods with dry ponds. Although it is designed as a dry pond, it is consistently boggy and silted in. The HOA maintains the pond regularly with a yearly cost of $4,500 to cut the center of the pond, plus the cost to mow around the pond weekly by different vendors. Despite years of mowing and specialized equipment, our roadways, specifically Old Reserve and Old Tree, become inundated with water during a hard rainfall. The pond is designed by engineers to collect rainwater runoff with a municipal drainage servitude in the center, which channels water approximately as metered release of flow into local water bodies. The dry pond has been designed by engineers, approved by engineers, constructed by the developer, approved by the parish, and regularly mowed and maintained by the HOA. What is unique is how we have always had roadway flooding issues predating the HOA and how we got where we are today. The roadways are designed according to the Department of Transportation standards and are not designed to flood, however they regularly do. While under construction, workers would uncover the storm drains in the street, allowing sediment and debris to flow into the drainage system completely unfiltered. Exhibit 1, drainage designs have specific language for erosion control measures that were not followed. Exhibit 2, an entire yard of sod was scraped and dumped into the detention pond by workers of the builder. Exhibit 3, builders' concrete trucks used the ponds as a concrete cleanout station. Exhibit 4, the outfall pipes are silted in within the detention pond and do not have adequate clearance of fall as designed. Exhibit 5, the builder was the acting HOA while the neighborhood was under construction, and it appears that they did not maintain erosion control as outlined in the drainage plans, which has led to excessive sediment in our detention pond. These concerns were brought up by the first HOA board when going over the final punch list. The builder representative responded in 2017, "This is not an issue. We will not regrade to clean out silt. Grass cutting is a responsibility of the HOA, not the parish." The builder met with only 1 board member to sign off on the final punch list in agreement of this statement. That 1 board member also happened to be employed by the builder. A very unique situation indeed. The situation is not a result of lack of maintenance from the HOA. We are pursuing a solution in a persistent problem that affects not only our residents, but also our neighboring communities. Our pond was not properly functioning or built according to design specifications. Resident, current or previous, have not caused the issue, so why should we be liable or held responsible for a special assessment to fix the developer builder negligence, lack of monitoring for site inspections from the parish, or a stated engineer design flaw in the size of
Thank you, Ms. Misty. Time's up, I'm sorry. Mr. Justin Smith.
Hello, board. My name is Justin Smith. I'm on the board for the HOA, and I just wanted to state 2 quick facts because I know you don't want to waste all y'all's time. So one is it's a safety hazard with the front of the neighborhood flooding to where trucks are actually flooding, trying to get out, so it's a big safety hazard. And number 2 is it's a regional problem. It's not just our neighborhood, because whenever the pond backs up, the front of the neighborhood floods, and then McCory Drive behind us floods, and then it also affects the outfall to the Bayou that the drainage pond goes into. So those are the 2 key things that I wanted to leave y'all with. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Justin. Teresa Cedric.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Shadre. I'm a resident of Shadows at Manchac and Ascension Parish. The issue that I would like to address with you has to do with drainage and water, but also has to do with my safety and that of the other 150 or so households in my community. Recently, we had some significant flooding. The entrance or exit to our neighborhood was inundated and completely impassable in a vehicle. As you can imagine, this was cause for concern. During our preparations for the recent hurricane and preparing for the oncoming emergent situations, we had to plan for the possibility that the only entrance and exit of our neighborhood would be blocked. So in addition to planning for the storm, we had to park a vehicle outside of our neighborhood in areas that weren't going to be impassable if we needed to evacuate for the storm. Our planning for this option may not be significant to any one of you individually. However, school buses, police vehicles, and ambulances would not be able to access our area or leave it if it was flooded. Our plan included walking through the flooded area. What about families with really young children? What about individuals with special needs and the elderly living in our community? They couldn't walk through that water like we would be able to. So my question is, how is the parish going to evacuate our neighborhood in the event of emergent situations with no available exit? I'm asking that we use drainage funds to prevent legitimate hazardous situations and brazen public safety violations in the future. I'm asking that we work together to use drainage funds to solve a problem that is only growing. Finally, I'm asking that we work together to create a forward-looking plan that will prevent possibly devastating losses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Joseph Thornburg. Thornburg.
Good evening. I just wanted to speak to the flooding event that the neighborhood experienced that heavy July night. My son was selected to the all-star team for Ascension Parish, and we had practice that night at Stevens Park in Santa Mont, which was called short because of the rainstorm. That night, we made it all the way from Santa Mont and Stevens Park to our neighborhood, where we had to pause because we couldn't enter our neighborhood. We sat at the front of the neighborhood for a few minutes and realized that we weren't safe because of the rising water on Old Reserve and backed up to McCrory 2. While parked on McCrory 2, we noticed that water was exiting our neighborhood onto the streets and drainage canals. Again, water was leaving Old Reserve onto McCrory 2, which could impact other neighborhoods and houses in the vicinity. I'd hate to see what happened if there was a medical emergency that night. And this isn't the only event that our neighborhood floods. It floods often, and it's oftentimes the school buses cannot pick up or transport the children safely. That night, at the corner of Old Reserve and Old Trail Drive, the floodwater was up way steep. The parish president was there and could testify that it was a very extreme and dangerous situation. So please consider this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
So all of these people here in support, but they don't want to speak.
Okay. Miss Amanda, she signed a card, but she didn't want to speak. Mr. Justin didn't want to speak. Mr. Steve, Mr. Jerry, Mr. Brandon, Mr. Chris, Mr. Mark, Miss Adele. Okay, we have Mr. Parish President.
Thank you, Chair. So I was there that July storm, but I think what I noticed was the trips after the storm. I don't think that any of these residents could have ever dreamed moving into this subdivision that they would have an annual maintenance fee of $4,500. We can only imagine if this HOA goes defunct, what's going to happen to that drainage structure. This is one of the few situations where this particular design was approved by parish government. I would just only want the board to consider taking a more aggressive approach to a solution here so that we are deferring a future problem. The more aggressive you get, the better solution and drainage solution that may be presented in the future. Who's to say what's going to happen if this HOA goes defunct and that $4,500 doesn't get spent on an annual basis? Yes, it is expensive. Ain't no way about it. We've done work in other subdivisions, and because this is a pond, we're reluctant, and I get it. I can't be responsible for every pond in the parish. 100%, I get it. And I support that because we can't. We don't have the resources. But when you have a unique circumstance and a unique situation that none of these people moving into that subdivision expected or agreed to, but have taken responsibility for, I just asked you to consider a more aggressive approach to defer a future problem of drainage problems in this area, this region, not just the subdivision, in this region. I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Mr. Ron and Mr. Jarrett Monsoon, if y'all want to come in and comment on this.
Defer to Jared to come up and go over his proposals and just kind of while he's on his way up to the mic, give you guys a little bit of history. You know, you guys tasked him to look into it as an overall kind of hot air balloon look at the whole situation. And now that we've gone into the details of it, we've gone out numerous times and looked at the different situations out there and came up with everything we thought of we can propose here as a solution. So I'll defer to him to go over what he's come up with on those three options with Hartman.
Good evening, Board. Right now we have several different options. The first option would be to the alternate one, basically converting the dry pond to a wet pond. And as you can see, it's very substantial cost to convert that because it's such a big and long pond. Alternate two. Now keep in mind there's a drainage servitude of roughly about 30 feet, so it doesn't span the whole entire width of the pond. So alternate two would be to create a channel and then concrete line that channel inside to hopefully prevent the maintenance issues associated with this dry pond. And as you can see, the two costs between those two itself is substantial, and they're right as far as cost wise. I mean, they're neck and neck, and so that's the two that we looked at for the pond. Now we also looked at improving some of the subsurface drainage up front, like the residents were referring to. And this may be a better option, depending on the funding, but it looks like that we can, give some relief up front. And I live not too far from the subdivision, and I've been out there in recent heavy storms, and I did not witness, a full pond and water on the streets. So I'm thinking it's more or less a subsurface issue up front. So it looks like we just need to get that water out and get it through the pond. So that would be my recommendation initially. Now, if y'all want to do the wet pond, I mean, that's, we can do that as well. But it's just another option to look at.
Hold up just a minute, Chair. Mr. President.
So there's an additional option is to do the center channel but not concrete it. So you wouldn't have the concrete cost, and that's going to drive it to be close to the first one. So that should have been another option in there, was doing the center channel within the 30-foot, allowing the outside to dry, and then that 20-foot channel in the middle to stay mostly wet and boggy. Yeah. But you could concrete that or not. So I was hoping to get a cost estimate without the concrete, but just a channel in the middle. So I just wanted to note that the concrete wasn't a requirement for the middle channel to work.
You got a minute, Mr. Joe? Jared, Mr. Joe.
The biggest issue I had, and that's the developer or the contractor opening up storm drains and letting silt flow straight into there. Same thing with concrete. We don't know if they put them in the storm drains also, or what type of sediment went in there. So if we do go through and dig this pond and spend $900,000 doing it, and the roads still flood because the pipes are still filled with concrete sediment, we didn't solve a problem and we just spent 900 grand. So as far as between the projects go, I feel like if we were to approach this, and I'm not saying we should at this point at all, we're discussing these three options. I feel like it would have to be, I would be more apt to do it if we're looking at repairing road drainage that affects drainage, because we do, I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't think it would solve it the first and second way. Third way, possibly.
So whenever we initially looked at the pond, I noticed from, we took a quote unquote as-built survey, today's survey versus the design. And it is silted up. Now, I can't comment, how it got silted up.
And I'm not even speaking of the pond. I'm speaking of what we can't see. I'm talking about the stuff under the roads. I'm talking about all of that stuff. That's where I would be afraid the problem is.
Yeah.
And before we would look at doing that type of stuff, you could easily put a camera, get somebody to come out there, check a few spots in your roadside drains and see that. Or if they already have that, we can look at it. Because you can do all the work on the pond side. If your water can't get to the pond in a decent, timely fashion, it doesn't matter.
You're right. Yep.
Mr. Aaron.
Yes, they have been out there and done that kind of stuff and blown out the pipes. I know Mr. White, you can see them all down. We have looked at that. They have, Mr. White can tell you, they did that in the past. They looked at it. It's my understanding that the pipes have been cleaned out. It's still not functioning as it is. This is one of those things that every district has this. We have this all over the parish. We have established neighborhoods that do have drainage problems. And, part of my goal with helping with this and Rhonda Place, and I know the parish president has the same goals, is that we have established neighborhoods that have drainage problems that are not the result of a homeowners association not doing their job. Many times it's the result of a developer not doing their job and past failure to properly inspect, catch that when it should have been caught. It wasn't caught. These citizens went out and bought houses with the belief that the parish did their job. I think 8-10 years ago, they thought the parish had done their job, but we didn't. We didn't catch the developer that didn't do things right, that we saw the pictures. They were dumping concrete in a drainage way. They were dumping sod. You can see the pictures in Exhibit 1 that debris and sod and sand are just flowing into the streets, which I could say, we now have Dean, the Stormwater Master, Wallace, who is out there preventing this. We've passed laws that we're not letting this happen in the future, which is great for the future. The problem is we have these citizens, and in every district, we have citizens like this that have older neighborhoods that were established already that are having these kind of flooding problems. So to me, the goal is we need to do something not just for the future of the new neighborhoods that are coming in, but we got to go back and fix our older ones. Now, Jared, I'd like to ask a couple questions. And first of all, I share Joel's concern. The ultimate concern is fixing the problem. Now, if we converted to a wet pond, would that also, and did the proper, pipe fixes, would that solve the entire problem with fixing the front of the neighborhood? And I'm probably not using the right terminology when I say the pipe fixes, but you know what I mean.
Well, yes. Now, of course, if you get a 100-year event and you're getting a lot of water from off-site, well, then all bets are off. But yes, that would solve all the issues.
And that's one thing that I've talked to the residents in the neighborhood about. This is not going to solve, it's not going to be the panacea that's going to solve every problem with drainage. Storms are going to arise that we can't prepare for. Financially, we don't have the money to prevent a 500-year storm like we've had recently. But this is something that we can prevent. And once again, this is a situation that arose because a developer didn't do what they were supposed to do. The parish didn't do what they were supposed to do. And we have stopped. I believe, I know this administration has done a great job we've stopped allowing people to not build drainage like they say they're going to do it, not to continually throw crap in our drains while they're building subdivisions. But it doesn't do anything to fix this. I would like to see the entire project done, but I've told the citizens, I have a concern that if you ask for too much, you don't always get everything. And I've listened to my fellow council members with concerns also about working on ponds, but I believe that this is significantly different because we are dealing with a dry detention pond, which we don't have those in the parish. And maybe that's something that we need to look at is, are we going to keep allowing this, seeing that the problems they have? For that, I mean, that's one of my concerns there. But it sounds to me, and I was looking at the cost, with the concrete, Mr. President, it looks like on the concrete on the proposal, it was about $388,000. Basically, if you pulled that out of it, we're talking about 510. So that would that, if we took the concreting plan, pulled the concrete cost out of it, and did the center drainage way, cleared that out, and that stayed more of a wet area, and then we also made sure that the pipes were fixed to fix the front of the subdivision and McCrory Drive and McCrory 1 and 2 and all of those, would that work?
Yeah, I mean, now, granted, you're not converting the whole pond into
Correct.
a wet pond, so there's still gonna be some maintenance involved. But yes, there's the first crossing or the first dam, there's 3 pipes that they're all silted in. And this would help that by creating that channel and opening up those pipes to get that water moving.
See, I really like this situation, or this idea, and I tell everybody why. I met with this neighborhood, that's why I wasn't at the last meeting, I was meeting with them, apologize y'all. But some of the citizens had a concern about creating a wet pond. They live right on it, they have young children, and there were safety concerns there. Other citizens were concerned with keeping it as a dry pond. And it seems that we may get the best of both worlds. It would reduce the maintenance cost long-term, but it would still provide the benefit that we need. So I'm going to make a motion, I think you said about $510,000, that we approve moving forward with the plan to fix the pipes and do the job of the center portion without the concrete. And that would cost approximately $500,000. So I'll make a motion that we move forward with that plan.
Both of them would be about 900, right? If you did the 500 plus the pipes, would be about another 400, so you're looking about 900.
If we added the concrete, yes.
No, without the concrete.
No, with the concrete would be.
If we're looking at changing the pipes, the changing of the pipes is 400, right?
Yes, so
And
about
then doing
900,
the
correct.
ditch with the
Oh, is that
ponds.
on top of the?
Yes.
I'm terrible with math now.
I've got a few questions.
I tell you,
whenever we
yeah.
get back to
hold
that.
on just a second.
we all
If you
do, you
hold
gotta
on
wait.
to your motion,
Yes.
Mr. Aaron, Mr.
Yeah, I'll
Chase.
defer to them first.
Yeah, Mr. Chase was patiently waiting. Go ahead, Chase.
Yeah, just for clarity, so on the 3 options, I like on the $910,000 option, if we take that at $389,000 out, that's, you made the comment that you think the subsurface draining from the neighborhood to the pond is an issue. And then we agree that the center of it and these dams are really bad off.
Correct.
That's within our
They're silted
servitude.
up.
So this $910,000 that Mr. Lawler just made the motion on without the concrete, is that going to address the subsurface issue at the front of the neighborhood to get the water there?
Correct. So I think getting the water to the pond up front is the biggest issue. I think that's what they're seeing, this localized flooding.
Okay.
These high-intensity rain events that only last a couple hours, and it's just getting the water from point A to point B to the pond. But again, the pond is silted up, so it is a combination, but I think more importantly, if we can get that water to the pond, then, now, again, you have a mega rain event, you get the water from off site, I mean, you can't do nothing about that.
In your professional opinion, with the motion that Mr. Lawler just made, is that going to take care of our 30-foot servitude in the middle, that's gonna replace the 2 dams, and take care of the subsurface drainage to get from the neighborhood to the ditch?
Yes.
Right, that encompasses
Yes.
all of that for
Without the concrete.
without the concrete for roughly $511,000.
Plus the 400 for the pipes in the front, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 900.
441 plus 510.
Do what?
441,903 plus 510, clear that.
So that's what I'm asking. 'Cause
With that, Mr. President?
In the $910,000
No, you're making a new $910,000 quote with the
quote.
combination of those other.
Joe, let me ask the guy, please.
Well, we just asked those questions and went over it when I just did it, but go ahead and again.
Yeah, and you spoke out of turn. On this quote, there's 255 linear feet of 18-inch RCP pipe. Is that the subsurface pipe at the beginning of the neighborhood?
Are you looking at alternate one?
This is alternate 2.
Okay, so
I'm looking at alternate 2.
Okay, so alternate 2. So the 12-inch and the 18-inch, that is that first dam.
Okay.
The first and second dam that we're gonna, it's a corrugated metal pipe. It's probably all rusted out. It's all silted up. So we're gonna basically rebuild that whole dam and put in new pipe. That is not considered subsurface. Subsurface is
Okay.
on the street side.
So the motion, the $511,000 motion, that takes care of the center, the dams, but does not take care of subsurface piping to get from the neighborhood to the
Correct.
pond.
Correct.
So like Joel's saying, we'd have to put the $400,000 on top of this
that.
one.
Okay. You finished, Mr. Chase?
Yeah.
Mr. Dow, hold on, I'm gonna get the parish president, please.
Yeah, so I just want, we got some options. Okay, so if you need us to fine tune specifically, we can. Let's look at that, because you can do this in multi-year. You don't have to set it in, like you're gonna spend 900 down in 1 year. You can do subsurface first and then plan out, because number one, the weather's gonna have to be worked in order to get into that pond, or we're just gonna mess things up. So it has to be set to where either we go in or we contract the work nonetheless. But what I would suggest is if the board can say, listen, I want to task the administration, I want you to look at this, come back with some good hard numbers on what we feel will fix this problem per the engineer. And let's make sure we get those accurate figures to you as much as possible, because there's a lot of discussion about a lot of different figures that makes me really nervous. So
Right. I mean, if you just
if y'all will give us direction, we can get some hardcore numbers on specifically what we're doing and the cost of each, is what I would suggest, because I'm getting numbers, there's a lot of numbers around, and let's maybe dig in a little deeper, a little more detail, and then come back with that at the next meeting, per your direction. Give me that, I want to look at this, and this. Give me some hardcore numbers, and then let's let the engineer fine tune the effects of that, and then look how you may want to do it. Multi-year, one project this year, one project next, so we can budget accordingly based on your decision. Thank you.
Mr. Dow, you was next.
Well, I mean, you kind of read my mind, so there's a lot of stuff being thrown around here. I'm sure Jared, I'd like to see, I mean, we got these 3 options, we're asking all kind of questions. I'd rather see us come back, defer this, I guess, a month, and then you come back and kind of just a little bit better presentation on what each stage costs, what the benefits, and what we're actually voting on, an actual number, because we're doing a lot of head math up here, so I'd like to see it in a proposal.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to defer and come back with a more detailed presentation.
Well, Mr. Dow.
Oh.
They just asked for direction. I think you need to make a motion to task the administration to come back with the number, so these folks will have something. I don't want to see you defer. We need to take some type of action.
Oh, understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to know in step 1, which one is more important? The subsurface piping, getting the water to the pond, or getting the pond cleaned first, and then maybe we can do it in 2 steps. You can do the subsurface area maybe for 2022 budget, and then we can go in and spend the money on the pond on 2023 budget. But me personally, I would like your professional advice on which one is more important, or is it equally as important that we do both at the same time? And all that stuff, because I mean, we have the 3 spreadsheets, but you know, they're kind of difficult to understand exactly which each one is accomplishing, and what can we live without.
Well, next time we'll present, you know, one alternate, and, you know, we can do it in phases or whatever, and I'll give my recommendation as far as if we need to do subsurface first and vice versa.
Mr. Joe, you finished?
Yeah. Turn him off.
Corey is not, oh, okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, Mr. Joe.
I have a lot of reasons here when I was reading the letter and listening as to why I did not want to do this project. But something that Councilman Lawler said kind of has swayed me a little bit, believe it or not. This is a problem inherited by an HOA from a subdivision built years ago. And like you said, we all have those in our districts. You and I have talked about one in particular in my district. You might not put it together, but I think a lot of the problem in Pelican Point has to do with the sub-drainage in the roads also. Same thing, they're inherited with the problem. I'd be willing to support option 2 and 3. I believe those are the options where it's not the concrete, where you still do the wet pond and do the subsurface drains, which will be around the 900 figure. I'm good with coming back with that figure next time, or if y'all would like to consider that, I'll make the motion to do those 2 and then come back with a better number of quote.
I'll second Joel's motion. I'm sorry, I wasn't recognized.
No.
Yeah. I'll second Joel's motion to do it all at once. I think we have the money in the budget. It would be $952,000. You know, this is kind of like what Joel said, is we have a plethora of neighborhoods all around the parish that need this help. To me, this is a first step, and we're not going to be able to do fix every single neighborhood in the next 5 years. But over the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, we are. And I think part of what this Drainage Commission and this administration wants to do is go around the entire parish and identify these kind of situations and start making these fixes. Because this works in combination with the work that HNTB just showed. Is, you know, this neighborhood is right on Cotton Bayou. I don't know if y'all noticed during the presentation, they showed that one's already been done. They're looking at the big waterways where all these neighborhoods flow to. But what we're seeing in this neighborhood, we could clear out Cotton Bayou, but it's not even going to get there. And we have to start doing that in every single district, everywhere around the parish. And that's going to fix our drainage, a combination of looking at the larger waterways and making sure they can move the water, but then looking into neighborhoods and making sure that water can get to the major drainage ways. And it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of money. We all wish this would be cheaper, but the reality is it's not. So I'll second Joel's motion for the $952,000 to do the subsurface drainage at the front of the subdivision and the center channel without concrete for the pond.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Johnny, you have one?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that past president brought up a good point. You know, we've thrown some options around here tonight, but apparently the administration is willing to come back next month with other options. You know, this may not be the best cost-effective option that we will have or would have. And putting a plan forward, it doesn't have to all be done at one time. If we can do it in phases, it might resolve the problem over time and save us some money.
You know, and
let me get you going here. Go ahead.
You know, actually, John, you bring up a very good point, and so do you, Mr. President. We can approve all this, but over a 2-year period, because the construction on this is not going to be able to start immediately. and we know how construction lasts, it's probably a 2-year project anyway. By the time you do one, you get weather boards, and that would spread this money out over a 2-year budget. So I'll amend your motion that we approve the full amount, but over a 2-year budget cycle. So it spreads it out, and that also allows us to we kind of do tier work. We're going to have other problems that are going to arise throughout the parish and other subdivisions. We can start with some and constantly have this tiered approach that we're always going to be fixing subdivision drainage, but it's just going to take a little bit of time.
All right, we have a motion and a second on Hartman engineer. Who wants to clean it up? Who wants to clean up this motion?
No, I just got one more. I just wanted one more comment. Look, I mean, I definitely want to, get in there and help them, but I just feel like we're it's all over the place right now. We don't fully understand if spending a $910, and then I know we talk about cost benefit analysis all the time. I mean, $910,000. If that doesn't kind of, kickstart us for a cost benefit analysis, I mean, I don't know where that threshold is. I mean, we've, expectations of this board has been that a CBA be provided with dollar figures much smaller than this, but I'm gonna have to object to $910,000 tonight, right now. But I would love for more detail, more execution, and bring it back in December, and let's see if we can, I don't know, maybe there's a $600,000-$700,000, figure out there that we can move along with. I do like the multi-year budgeting and all that stuff that Mr. Lawler was talking about, but, and that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Travis.
Yes, I know we have a nice surplus in the drainage budget, so I just don't see why can't we just do it all at once. I mean, what's the point of having save the money there? So I think we should just approve, not per se maybe with the concrete, if you just want to do it without the concrete. I mean, but personally, I think you probably should just do the concrete because it'd probably be the best way to do it, and just move forward and try to do it the best way and not have we do it. That's just my opinion on it.
And we're going to approve each of these projects before they're done anyway. Bidding and everything.
Back to Mr. President.
I'd like to put together a cost-effective plan based on your recommendations tonight, bring that to you with specific amounts and photos and problem photos so we can present exactly what we're planning to do here. Since we're spending a considerable amount of money, I think we need to get into some bigger details. And I feel that because I need direction on how we're going to pull this off. And it's very important we get down into the details and not the concepts, but actual details of what we're going to replace, what we're going to replace them with, what the cause is going to do, and photos of each and every one of those parts, and then give you the cost figures so that we can execute this. And spending this kind of money, we need to execute it exactly as is intended.
Well,
that would be my recommendation.
And just to add on what the parish president saying, and me and Ron, we've had many conversations on, we have to watch where we're going with this because they are all over the parish. And we want to make sure that these folks are treated right. But we have to take different options, different steps. And, I'll go ahead and give my story. We spent a little over $800,000 in Wallace Acres on this was a pilot program, okay? I'm not able to get the water out of Wallace Acres quick enough to get to the Henderson Bayou pump station, and I'm still having flooding, and people are looking at me and saying, you just spent all this money and upgraded all kind of subsurface and covered crossings, and I can't get the water out quick enough. And I know they're going through the same thing. I don't want to sit here and have to tell the folks again, we need to do improvements downstream. We have to get this stuff right. And like I said, they are scattered all over the parish. So let's, I know we need to move on this quick, and that's why I'm saying we don't want to hold up nothing, but we have to get our stuff together. Mr. Aaron?
No, and I hear everybody, and I also understand what the citizens are going through. You know, the most important thing, you're right, is to make sure this is done correctly. And I'm always a big proponent of let's make sure the cost and the benefit is there. And maybe I hear some of it because I've been talking to Jared, and I've talked to the administration about it, and I know more maybe about the benefit and the cost, and I know the citizens, what they're going through. But I want to make sure this is done right, and that the ultimate issue is that we pass this and fix the problem. So I'll withdraw my motion, Joel, not because I don't want to get this done. Yeah. I'll withdraw my second. But I'll make it a motion that we instruct the administration to come back to us with detailed proposals, which would include doing the center channel with and without concrete, and the front of the subdivision fixes for all of the under drainage, and also give us those cost estimates over like a 1 and a 2 year period. And I think that way we could see, because I'll be honest, I don't know if all of this work could get done in a 1 year period, in a 1 year budget period. But what I'm hearing is I think there's a lot of support for this on the council, and I want the citizens that are here to understand that this is not going away.
Aaron, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the Shadows at Manchac subdivision. Any opposition to that motion? Not? Motion passed. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
All right, Ron, we have E, authorization to enter into agreement between the East Ascension Consolidated Drainage District Number 1 with the USGS. Mr. Ron?
This is just an annual renewal. We're asking for our water gauges to be renewed with USGS for the gauges that we use for operations of the pump stations and water systems.
Moved by Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. John.
I don't have an objection, but I do have some questions before.
Discussion, Mr. Joe.
The amount of money that we're spending on this page is annually, we're looking at $131,000 for how long is that?
This is yearly.
It's 1 year, but it's actually 98,000. We split it with USGS. They put up 33,000 of the 130.
Okay, so we're putting up 98,000.
Yes.
Let's take a step back to the system that we saw in Jefferson Parish when we went, where they put out all their gauges, they work their own system, it's real time. How much was that to start off? What were we looking at? Roundabout.
Well, maybe I might give a little overview. So talking to HNTB, we presented and said, you know, what does this need to look like in the future? And the SCADA system is critically important, even leaving these in place, because the way Jefferson has their SCADA system is it's a one-screen access. You're able to look at the rain in real time instead of delays like the current system is. And you can the recommendation from talking to them is to leave this in place and build upon this so that there's gaps in the system. And so the suggestion was in the future to build on this and bring in the SCADA part as well as SCADA at each of the pumping stations like we're doing at the Sorrento upgrades, that's going SCADA, and build all this into one network so that every councilman, administration, DPW can have access to that and look at rain in your districts and us as a regional in real time. And you will know when you get that 6-inch rain in 3 hours.
But
or you'll get that. So this is an important component of a stepping stone to build into the SCADA system you're referring to in Jefferson Parish.
When we do move to that SCADA system, which I do hope we do, we were looking at figures when we were being proposed to take it up before. And it's pennies on the dollars from what I understand to what we would pay per gauge with USGS. I don't have an issue, obviously, approving this tonight because I know we need it. I do have an issue saying we're going to continue having 100% at almost $100,000 a year when we could get better, accurate numbers for cheaper in the future. Yeah, no objection on the motion tonight, but I do want to make a conscious effort to work at getting that SCADA system. At first, let's put them together. Let's have an ultimate goal of being self-sufficient and not spending that extra money.
So if I may add, Chair, John left. John was here, we're talking about putting another trip to go to the largest pumping station in the world, and they are built into the same SCADA systems. I'd like you to, if you can make it, to try to make that if you can. It gives you the detailed analysis of how much water's in the channel, how much rainfall you get, your pumping station, which pumps are on, how much discharge, and for planning purposes, it's just crucial moving forward in the future. So we'll try to get those dates out, get many as y'all can. Obviously, it's something to see, the world's largest pump station in the world. But nonetheless, we'll try to do that when they're doing maintenance and they have to turn them on so you can experience them running. But that SCADA system is probably one of the best I've ever seen and probably top notch in the world as well. So we'll try to schedule that to have many board members as possible be able to make that trip. It's going to be something to see.
One quick comment, Chair.
Mr. Chase.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback. So our last steering committee with H&TB, we asked them to go ahead and start identifying, the top 10 to 15 areas that we would want to start a program if and when we get to that point. With our own rate gauges, maybe there's some holes in the USGS where we don't get, there's a large area where we're missing this information. And so with H&TB's help, whenever we bring the proposal back, we'll, have that information from them. Because speaking with them, they also agree that until you start installing them and start collecting the data, that you can't really put procedures in for them before putting them in until you start collecting it and all that stuff. And then and the major goal is hopefully within a few years, you get 30, 40, 50 of these rain gauges for us, and we can actually start creating standard operating procedures. Whenever rain gauge X is receiving, more than an inch an hour for X amount of time, that's going to cause us to activate Henderson Bayou or Marvin Brew or things like that. So they were very, very supportive of our starting our own system. They want to and play a part in that as well, help identify the best places to put these rain gauges. So I just want to throw that in there, that we had a very productive talk with them last week. Thank you.
Great, thanks for the info. I know we had a motion and a second. Who made the motion? Do we have?
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll second it.
Give it a chase.
Motion by Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. Chase. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. We're gonna move on to approval. Mr. Ron.
Yes, this is approval for amendment number 1 of the master contract for drainage professional engineering services with Infinity Engineering Consultants LLC for the Conway Pump Station Upgrade FEMA Project 4277 DRLA FEMA Project number 0062, Ascension Parish Project number EAD 20009, and Parish Grant Project number 2003F to extend the term only for original contract date to December 31st, 2022.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Johnny, second by Ms. Terry. Any more discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed. On to G, it's another approval. Mr. Ron?
Guys, this is just some homework that we need to do on the contract with H. Davis Cole. We brought this before you at the last meeting, but this is an approval for an amendment number 5 to H. Davis Cole and Associates LLC Master Contract for Professional Services to reallocate the funds of $25,920 from resident inspection budget to rebidding services for a new contract total of resident inspection of $109,280. The contract not to exceed $561,119.
Moved by Mr. Joel, second by Mr. Aaron. Discussion. Any opposition? None. Motion passed. H, another approval, Mr. John Paul. We on H.
We're going with the second bidder on the New River project. The first bidder was awarded the contract, came to a post-bid hearing, and said they wanted the project, but then refused to sign any of the contract documents. So we held an informal conference with them. They said they were not going to sign the contract documents at this time, so we've moved on to the second bidder, which is
You go ahead
Boone.
and announce that and give your findings.
Yeah.
That would be from Boone.
Yes, Boone is the second bidder, and they have satisfied all the requirements of the bid, and that's who, and we've presented a contract to them. They're ready to move, so this is approval of the contract with the second bidder.
Moved by Mr. Terry, second by,
Yeah, I'm gonna second it. Finally be done with bridging the gap. They've held us up hostage long enough.
we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Mr. Johnny.
I just want to be sure that this is within the budget. Ron, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good.
Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to, this is a vote to approve proposed amendments to the addendum. Mr. Chase.
Yeah, before we start, John Paul, would you mind, you mentioned it at the end of our last meeting, touching on the capability for us to hire a parish employee, but also with a contract. You know, I know we're at will. I don't, know in the past if we've ever given an employee a term contract, but you said that is something that we have the ability to do.
Yes, it is. There's the default in Louisiana is at-will employment, but every employment scenario is a contract in and of itself. The at-will type of contract is you will provide services for a set hourly rate or fee, but it is able to be terminated at the whim of either party. The theory behind that is if the employee gets a better offer, they can walk and they don't owe anything back. And if the employer has a fluctuation in their work requirements, they can let the person go. So that's the general rule. The exception to that is if the parties decide to contract for a term, for a set period of time, with a price that's definitive. Now, the difference there is if there's a separation by either party, there can be consequences to the term of that contract and what was promised. And it gets into your basic contract law at that point. But it is certainly permissible to have a straight contractor relationship with an employee.
Good deal. Thank you, John Paul. That's actually going to, eliminate about half of the discussion that I want to have, contractor versus, parish employee. Let's see, but on the agreement that we did pass at last meeting, let's see, the salary range on B4, we have a range of 135,000 to 210,000. Don't love that we, cementing ourselves in right there. I know we're going to be, Ms. Christelle Slaughter with SSA is contracted to help us with these things. I know that's a big wide range. Me personally, I would prefer to leave the dollar amount until our subject matter expert kind of more defines that for us. And I'm gonna scroll through real quick. I'm gonna just hit on a few. Let's see, on B14, I would like to add the language as it relates to drainage employees. No employees can be terminated prior to the approval by majority vote of the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Board. After board, I would like to add the language which will take place after a presentation by parish president via executive session during an EAC GDD meeting. That would be my first amendment that I would offer.
Yeah, because that's,
Right. Some of them I'm not gonna propose. I think it'd be better if we just hit them one by one real quick. There's not gonna be that many with the contract portion. So on page 3, number B14, I would add that. Just that criteria that, it would happen after an executive session. Yes, that is my,
You make that motion, I'll second it.
okay.
I'm just making sure we're doing these out of order though, so that's,
Mhm.
I just don't want to
Well,
get confused.
so
Where
this
we
is,
bypassed the first few.
Yeah, we didn't vote on those.
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
We're not gonna make those.
Yeah, I'm not gonna offer those amendments because of what John Paul just cleared up.
Gotcha.
Yep,
so this
Yeah,
is
so I'm
B4, this is B14.
yes. This is
Okay.
section B14. I want to add that language. I made the motion and Commissioner Casso seconded.
Any discussion? Any opposition to the adding the language? B14, none. Go ahead, Mr. Chase.
My next amendment will be on B17. So it reads, any official communications to the public pertaining to drainage shall be issued jointly by the Drainage Commission and the parish president. No official communications pertaining to drainage shall be issued without the approval of EACGD. I would like to add chairman and vice chairman of before EACGD.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Aaron. Second by Mr. John. Any discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed. That's 17B.
Okay, so on C5, I would like to add the language, and this is just, cleaning up. I'm kind of getting in the habit. I'd like us to use our official parish emails for official communication amongst each other. And so this right here is stating that, that the parish president provides substantive answers to commissioners' questions and concerns submitted before the drainage board meetings or asked during those meetings unless answers are unavailable at the time. Under such circumstances, substantive answers shall be provided as soon as possible. But if information is unavailable within 3 days, I would like to amend it from commissioners to the entire board of commissioners will be, and I will add the word formally before notified via, and I will add official parish email, and will be as informed as to when the information will be delivered or why it cannot be put forward.
I'll second that.
I do have discussion on that.
Okay?
Moved by Ms. Terry, second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion.
I just-
Mr. Aaron.
I'd like to see the official emails between Travis and Chase regarding the East Ascension Santa Mall bets.
That was a quick text.
That's a soul. All right, so I'm sorry, that would be on C5.
C5.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed.
All right, my next amendment is in C7. C7, and so right here, I added some language which I don't always do the best job of interpreting, but C7 reads, recommends and obtains commission approval for any new projects and activities that are projected to cost over $25,000 in labor and materials, and or for projects that will have cost increases to an amount over 10% above $25,000. So I added 10% of the project's original approved cost. So for example, if we have a $100,000 project, if there's a $11,000 change order, that would be 11%. So at that point, parish president would have to come back to the commission for approval. But anything inside of that 10%, it's been practiced for years that our department heads, have the authority for those change orders and all that stuff. So, just to expedite smaller change orders, I added that language for within 10% of the project's original cost. And that's the amendment I'm offering on C7.
Do we have a motion Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Dow. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Terry. Any discussion? Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm understanding this right, because I think we do the same thing in Move Ascension, if I'm correct, that you don't have to, and that's what it's going to be, you don't have to get approval. So even if it's if we got $1 million project, we can, as long as the change orders don't total over 10%.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like Mr. Joey has autonomy to sign those.
but he may sign a couple, like 3 or 4 ones, but as soon as maybe the next one is a 5%, once that breaches the 10%, that's when he has to come to us.
That's right.
Is that how this works? Okay. I mean, I just want to make sure that was the understanding of this. For some reason, I would think to add something to the effect that it was a 10% in aggregate, just so it doesn't read, so there's no confusion later on, that it's not like, well, I signed a couple of 7%ers because it said it had to be over 10%. You see what I'm saying? I just want to make sure the wording's right, and maybe even come back on this and we can talk to Joey and how the wording was, how we did it for Move Ascension. My concern is just, that, hey, I signed a couple of 7%ers and it totals 21%, but never came back to us because it wasn't over 10%.
Right, I see what you're saying, each individual one.
Yes, so I think maybe a total, let me look at it real quick. And for all costs, an amount over a 10% aggregate of the project's original approval cost above $25,000.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I hate change orders. I'd be in support of that.
Yeah, no, we all do. That's good.
Yeah.
Mr. Robert, hold on just a second. Mr. Robert, while we're in discussion.
So for my clarification, let's say we're doing $1 million project. Road project. They would be able to sign change orders for up to $100,000 without us approving it. So I feel like we should put a cap on that, is what I'm getting at. That's what
You got a cap?
If I may.
Sure, Mr. Aaron.
The way we do it with the Move Ascension projects is Joey can sign it up to that point, up to that 100,000. He still eventually has to come to us for approval.
Okay.
But the concern is,
I'm good. That's what I was asking.
we don't want to slow down projects and this is a real life example of when we needed 27 more feet of pipe. That would have delayed the entire road project for about, probably a month and a half by the time we moved that change order through. We needed that 27 foot of pipe. There was no two ways about it. We just want to make sure that projects move forward. We don't want giant, massive change orders. I don't think anybody does.
So what would happen if we're in the situation where we get all that pipe and then we wouldn't have approved the change order, but we already got the pipe? How do we work with that? We'll just, I guess.
That's
maybe litigation, right?
Yeah, that'd probably lead to litigation. But we always, as long as it's under 10%, we're approving it. And I can tell you, so far, I think at the last transportation meeting, I went through each one. We didn't have anything that was above a total for the entire project over 6.2%. So they've done a really good job of keeping everything within cost.
If you will, I'll change my amendment to include the word aggregate.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on C7. We have any other discussion? We have any opposition? None. Motion passed.
That's the end of my amendments I have to offer on the agreement addendum.
All right, to clearing it up, any further discussion? Any opposition to the amendments? None. Motion passed. Move on to J. We have a speaker to vote on approval. Consultant agreement. Ms. Katrina. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
Good evening. We talked about this at the last meeting, and again, I don't think that we need a liaison. Y'all seem to be working together very well, and I really appreciate that. So I think spending this money again for Mr. Rue is ridiculous. Mr. Ogeron said at the last meeting that one of the reasons we were going to do this is because Mr. Savoy needs help, which I agree with. He does. So why don't we give him the money to hire people to help him instead of having somebody sit in this room making $200 just to listen to y'all, because that's what he would make. He would have made $200 by now. If you decide to hire Mr. Rue, I would like someone to make a motion that each month at this meeting, there will be a report for what he has done and what he has been paid for, because we need to know what he's getting paid for. And then to talk about something you said a while ago with the man shack and everything, I agree that we need to help those people, but let's also make sure that we don't waste that money by building more subdivisions without actual looking at the drainage so it doesn't affect what was done. And as my last thing, I am officially asking for Mr. Ogeron's resignation. He is not coming to meetings, he's not doing his job, and so he's getting paid and not doing his job. Thank you.
Mr. Chase.
This is a liaison agreement between Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District and Mr. Bill Rue. So last meeting we had some constructive conversation about exactly what we wanted it to look like with some details. I took it upon myself just to kind of add in some more clear language in here on the duties that Mr. Bill would perform for both the Drainage Commission and administration. I added information such as he would attend projects and consultant engineer meetings at the request of East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 Board or the parish president. This includes, but is not limited to, our monthly steering committees that we have every month with HNTB on our floodplain management plan. Matter of fact, Mr. Rue attended the last meeting with us, and you know, he had some input here and there and all that stuff. So also I included the language on an official request from Mr. Bill. So I've got a lot of comments that we're just handing out a $49,999 contract, and in this case that's not the instance. This is an hourly contract. It cannot exceed the $50,000, but for Mr. Bill Rue to have any billable hours per the edits I made that I'm offering tonight, two things would have to happen. The chairman and vice chairman of drainage, which at the time is Mr. Dempsey and I, or the parish president, would have to officially request Mr. Bill Rue via official parish email, official communication. Hi, we have this meeting on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We need you to come. And so at the end of the month, whatever hours Mr. Bill has put in for the Drainage Commission and or for administration, when he sends us that, we will have a corresponding email. You know, it's not going to be Mr. Bill is going to send us a invoice for 38 hours for the month of April, and we don't know what he did. He's going, when we need Mr. Bill, he will be there to help us. I can tell you twofold. I think that this is going to make us and administration a better body, and secondly, I know for a fact it'll help myself out tremendously just by I don't have to leave work every single week to come to the meeting. So I actually think it's a pretty good thing. Mr. Bill, you know, was here for 18 years. He's got a lot of knowledge. Parish president is, you know, him and I, Mr. Bill sat down last week after the thing, and I think they're ecstatic to work, you know, together. Mr. Bill just wants to come in, help us, attend meetings, communicate. The same thing with administration. He doesn't want to get involved with employees or anything like that. Mr. Bill just wants to be a helping hand if he can. And me personally, for my own time's sake, I'm happy to have it. So I will make a motion to accept the liaison agreement as amended, the copy that is on the agenda tonight with the revisions.
We have a motion. We have a little bit more discussion. Mr. Aaron.
I'll save that for discussion, but I'd like to do two things, and bear with me on this. because Mr. Rue has put himself out there, but he has, his name has been dragged through the mud by a lot of people, and I think it was very unfairly. We've seen it a lot. And, I started to think about it. We don't want any of our employees to go through that. We don't want anybody that's worked for the parish to go through that. It's just a shame, but the vitriol that's been aimed towards him has been unacceptable many times. So what I have a list of accomplishments from 2000 to 2018. It's completion of major dredging. These are by Bill Rue while he was in office, so the parish did this. Completion of major dredging project from New River to Marvin Bro Pump Station to Bayou Francois to Gonzales, Severio Canal to Black Bayou to LA 44. That was 24 miles and increased flow capacity by 33%. Bayou Manchac snagging and clearing from the Amite River to Alligator Bayou. Completion of the partial levee in Sorrento. Major drainage, digging, and bank stabilization projects, which is enlarging channels, stabilizing banks, upgrading channel crossings. This was all performed by drainage personnel. This is Henderson Bayou, Marty Buret Channel, Upper Black Bayou, Upper Bayou Francois, Upper New River, Bayou Narcisse, Smith Bayou, Bird Allen Ditch, Bayou Goudin, Clouat Ditch, Boyle Bayou, Calabash Canal, Welsh Gully, Babin Canal, Muddy Creek, and Shadow Creek. Constructed protective cover over Marvin Bro Pump Station. Added pumps 6 and 7 to the Marvin Bro Pump Station. Constructed the Henderson Bayou Pump Station. Levee upgrade at Marvin Bro Pump Station to Rogers C. Road Bridge. Installed control structures and modified Highway 22 and Main Street ditches to Bayou Conway and Sorrento. Snag and clear project for Conway Bayou. Ring levee detention basin at Astroland subdivision. Constructed and installed a 6x6 box culverts to replace collapsed 6-foot corrugated metal culvert at the Frog Bayou locks. Enlarged drainage canal along Ridge Road, upgraded all culverts. Sorrento Pump Station, modified discharge piping to improve pumping, repaired failed substructure. There's also a list of 12 or 13 projects, many of which we talk about now, that were in either planning or design phase at the time of his retirement. Lower Ridge Levee, all Lower Ridge Levee upgrades, Severio Canal relief gate, Bayou Conway drainage basin detention area, same with Panama Canal, the Fish Bayou control structures. I'm not going to go through all of these. My point is that it's unfair to drag anybody through the mud, and I've heard many people say this man did absolutely nothing during his 18 years. He did a tremendous amount. Can you imagine how bad this parish would have flooded if we didn't have 2 extra pumps at Pump Station or the Henderson Bayou Pump Station? We would have been even further underwater. I'll tell everybody right now, I hear, well, we flooded in 2016. They blame it on Bill Rue. We were flooded in 2016 no matter what. There's nothing we could have done. Our engineers have all told us the same thing. It could not have been prevented. Not by 1 man, not by 200 men. It was going to happen. So a lot of good things happened under the watch of Bill Rue, and he wants to help. That's what this is about, and we're going to work together. Sorry about my little diatribe there, but I'm going to make one amendment. You know me, I can't let things just go. But there's a reason for this. Under the official request section, I'd like it to read that an official request of duties to be performed by the consultant shall consist of authorization via email by the EACGDD chair and vice chair or the parish president. I'd like to also add, or a resolution of the EACGDD. There's a reason for that. Okay. At the top portion, it talks about that the EACG, the East Ascension Drainage Commission, can direct Mr. Rue to do things. But the way it's written, if the vice chair or the chair either decide that they don't want to or they can't, and it's very necessary to have the 3 of y'all being able to direct them, especially in emergency situations, but there could be a situation where we vote to have them do something, but that means that one person, a chair, a vice chair, a parish president, can just say, no, I'm not going to have them do it. That means our votes don't mean anything. And that's the only reason I say that, and it would just mean we'd have to vote on it.
Yeah, I'll second that. Add that a resolution can also trigger services.
Okay, we got a little more discussion. Mr. Joe.
The only thing I'm going to ask the rest of the board is if we could have Mr. Rue come before us next meeting and answer any questions.
Sure.
think that's fair.
Yeah. And that's, Mr. President.
So I think he was feeling ill. He was supposed to attend today, but he was feeling under the weather,
Yeah,
so
I
he
think
did.
he-
That's the reason, because I had called to see if he was going to make it, and he said, I'm just not feeling, I'm feeling well. So that's his reason for not being here today, nonetheless.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. The motion, Mr. Johnny, you had something? All right, we have, any other discussion? Any opposition? You object? Ms. Liz, roll call? Or open the machine? All right, which one of these? Voting? You have to have 4 people running this thing up here, I can tell you right now.
Dempsey, have we voting on just the amendments? Just the amendment, or are we voting on the whole document? Senator asked me.
I was gonna do that at the end.
The whole document as it was.
He said, make sure it says the whole, the
Okay.
whole document.
The whole document as is with
As
the.
amended.
Yeah, as amended. Abstain.
Well, you take your, yeah.
Let me see here.
Hit voting control, see?
Right there.
There you go.
There we go. All right, now we can end the vote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We are this vote is for to be amended as the request and the add-ons that we have. And the motion passed. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Robert, second by Mr. John. We adjourn.
That was good.